Live from Chicken and Pickle, this is the UTSA Basketball Coaches Show. The UTSA Basketball Coaches Show, brought to you by UT Health San Antonio, the official healthcare partner of UTSA Athletics. By HEB, here, everything's better. By Chicken and Pickle, home of the UTSA Coaches Shows. By Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. By Credit Human, become a member today. Visit credithuman.com. By North Park Subaru, proud member of the Kalig Auto Group. By Cowboys Air Conditioning, the official HVAC partner of UTSA Athletics. And by Frostbank, we're from here. Now, live from Chicken and Pickle, here's the voice of the Roadrunners, Andy Everett.
Here we go on this Monday night. It's our final UTSA basketball radio show of the year as we wrap up successful seasons for the teams and get ready for next November when it all starts back up again. We are going to be joined by Austin Claunch on the phone in a little bit. Joey Brooks is going to join us from the men's side. We're also going to have Pat Hallmark out here as a special guest coming up in a little bit as well. And we kick things off with Karen Aston, the UTSA women's basketball coach. Let's talk about this amazing season that you had, and you've had a couple of weeks now to digest everything. So take us through some of your thoughts on just how special this year was for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of trying to digest it a little bit. I mean, it's kind of an overwhelming ending, I think, sometimes, and you try to step back and really appreciate the journey of the year, and I've definitely done that. I greatly appreciate the process, it started in June and it was, I kind of counted it up, it's 9 months. We start training in June and it ends 9 months later and you're like, man, that was a long grind and it really was. And you just appreciate the people that you go on it with, because I think the thing that I really understand about sports is that it's never the same. You're never going to be with that particular group ever again, and that's always the way that it is. So I really appreciate the people that we shared it with. I thought it was a tremendous year. Hope that the finish doesn't take away from what a phenomenal year it was, really.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the people are out here tonight that are part of that journey as well. They come to the games. You had over 2,000 people in one of the final home games of the year. So it was kind of a community thing that everybody got to be a part of. Yeah,
for sure. And it's crazy because there's so many like little community activities that our team is joining in on this spring. We're going to have a day at the zoo. I think the commissioner's having us out. Just a lot of activities, and that tells me that the community really embraced our team and really appreciated what we brought to the table.
I know the Rice game was probably so painful because of all you had done, and you played so. I watched most of that game and saw how hard you played, and just was one of those days where everything you tried, nothing worked. And sometimes the mind says do this, and the body just doesn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, we just picked a bad time to play bad, and you just don't ever know really the answer to that. And trust me, I think myself in particular and our staff has really reflected and talked about it. I've had individual meetings with players and said, okay, like where were y'all, and kind of what did you feel? Mainly because you want to learn. I mean, you want to keep learning, and you want to figure out if you could have done something different or better in that last process after we won the championship. And I think sometimes it's just an evolution, to be honest with you. I think sometimes you have to go through something.
You had a generational player in Jordan Jenkins for the last 3 years, but you had a lot of players that got better because of her, and players wanted to come here because of her, and that's the nucleus of future teams. So as much as it's painful that Jordan didn't get to the NCAA tournament, you certainly have a foundation for the next seasons.
Yeah, we absolutely do, and I think that the thing that I'm probably the most excited about is the freshman class that really didn't get a lot of minutes, but I said all year long that I really, really hoped that they stuck around because I think they're very talented. They just kind of were in that situation where they had to wait their turn a little bit, and I'm excited. Again, you have end-of-the-year meetings, and some won't be back and some will, and I'm excited to say that the freshman class are all coming back, and I think that I do think they're very talented, and I think that a year under their belt now and understanding what the process is in college basketball, you'll see a huge difference in them. I think Idara is the anchor of what we're trying to get accomplished for sure in the paint, and excited to see what transition she makes. And again, we'll have some changes. That's just the world of college basketball, and I hate it sometimes, but I think, it's just you have to embrace it and you have to move forward, and that's the special thing about just a particular year and what this year meant to me, and I'm sure to all of us, is just that we had a really, really special group.
And she was one that really, from her freshman year to now, how much she's improved has been amazing.
Yeah, you're talking about Idara?
Idara, yeah.
The thing about Idara is that I think that people don't understand how difficult it is to go from being a high school post player to a college post player. Because when you're in high school, you can't move. If you're bigger than everybody, the second you touch anybody, it's a foul. So they play very upright. They feel like if they do anything physical at all, it's going to be a foul. So they go from that to nothing's a foul. And, skill set's got to be much improved. You can't just throw it up there and get your own rebound. And so I think the evolution of a post player is exactly what she's going through, and I would anticipate her remarkably improving between this year and next year.
What is Jordan's future? WNBA, I know, is the goal,
yeah.
But she'll likely get drafted at some point and maybe have a chance to make a team next year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we actually talked today, and she came by the office, and, I think that luckily for her, there's 3 rounds this year.
Yes.
And we talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that today. I said, there's only 2 rounds. There's 3 now. And to be honest with you, once you get past the first round of the WNBA draft, and NBA could be like this, I don't really know. But it's kind of like, do you get even training camp is just as important as being drafted, because you really, at that point, you have to show up in training camp, and you have to make a team. And it's really, really hard, and it doesn't necessarily depend on whether you got drafted or not. If you're first round, you probably might have a shot. So I think that, for me, I hope she gets a chance, even if it's a training camp roster. If not, then, she'll go overseas and do really well. And at some point, she's going to be in the WNBA if she stays healthy.
Coming up in the next segment, we're going to visit with Cameron Miles. He helps with the post players and the scouting, and we'll visit with him along with Karen coming up. It's the UTSA Basketball Radio Show on the UTSA Sports Network. It's presented by UT Health San Antonio, the official healthcare partner of UTSA Athletics. See UT Health San Antonio's brightest minds are making lives better at WeMakeLivesBetter.org. And if you're looking for a new or pre-owned car, look no further than Ensira.com. Shop every make and model in one location and get a great low Ensira price only at Ensira.com. Cameron Miles, UTSA assistant coach, joins us. Welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me.
Very good. All right, you work with the post players and some other things. We're going to start there. And obviously, you've had a pretty good one with Jordan for some time, and now working with Adara. Take us through what you're trying to get accomplished with them.
Man, they're just workers. So they make it easy. I'm just in the gym. I'm a rebounder, really. But just trying to keep them locked in and focused on what the task at hand is. Developmental-wise, Jordy wanted to shoot the three. She'll tell you that. She wanted to shoot the three. All she wanted to watch was threes. So we got in the gym. We did a lot of reps. I asked her if she did the things that I wanted her to work on, we'll do the things that she wanted to work on. So we came to a compromise from that.
Karen was talking earlier about Adara making the transition from high school where you can't be physical to college where you can be. Talk about that education process with big players to get them to be more versatile and more active.
I think that comes along with playing. She got a feel of that through education of playing the game. Because, again, some refs call it harder than some refs do. So I think just us being physical as we can be in practice, like we want them knocking me over. I tell them, if you can knock me on the floor, you win. So, and then playing games will help you adjust and learn the feel of the game and go from there. But again, that kid, she's the epitome of born ready. She came here ready.
Basketball's become less about post players, back to the basket in some areas, but you still need bigs. You still need a rebounder. You still need the physicality, don't you? I
think that dominance in the low post too. It's if you can garnish it the right way, it's just as welcoming as guard play. A lot of these post players are very skilled. They can pass, they can dribble, can shoot it. That's what we're working on with Idara, stretching her reach out to the three-point line, but also being able to finish around the paint still. So it's just about your philosophy.
Karen, talk about having the staff that you do. We've had Jamie on before and Cam and others. Talk about what you see in Cam that has really made this team develop and blossom with his expertise.
Yeah, I think along with who I feel like everybody on my staff, you could probably say the same thing about. I think they're extremely talented, and I use the word rising star, and I don't use it lightly. I think Cam is a rising star in our business. He can teach, and I think that's a big deal. Some people can coach, and he can teach the game. He can teach both sides of the ball. He worked with one side of the ball last year, and he sort of helped take over our defense this year, and thought he did a great job. I think if he went down with the guards, he would be great. I think he's just a teacher of the game. He's a student of the game. Definitely a great recruiter. I think his best skill is his people skills, for sure. The kids love him. People love him. And I think I'm lucky to have him. I'm lucky to have everybody on my staff. Several are here today, and I think that's what's made this journey for me here at UTSA so special, are the people, and he's a big part of that.
Cam, talk about your basketball background and your passion for this game and wanting to pass it along to the next generation.
Man, I grew up in a basketball family. Mom, dad, brother, sisters. Everybody played collegiate basketball or pro basketball at some degree. And then it's just for me, I just love it. It's showed me so much. It's taken me so many places that I just want to give back to what it gave to me. And if helping kids along the way is a bonus to that, I'll take it every time.
You get to go to work every day, and it's in a basketball arena, right?
I tell people that all the time. I wore sweats to work today. I tell people that all the time.
All right. You also work with the scouting. Talk about that and helping get all the scouts done and all the different aspects of that. Where do you start there?
Man, like you said, all the different aspects of it. The way we scout it's unique. It's different than a lot of people do it, but I like it because the way we work, we all know what's going on. We're all one voice. So when we're on the court, if we're doing USF, Soph knows what's going on, just like Jamie and Chantel. We all kind of cohesively know what's going on, so I like it. It's a lot of work, But I do like the fact that no kid can come to you. I remember in college asking the coach, hey, what does number 22 do? And he's like, that's Coach Scout. He mind his business. I like the fact that we all speak one language, and again, the season was reward for that, for all being on the same page and all speaking one language, and we were able to kind of make something happen.
Karen, talk about that uniqueness and also the fact that they may watch a little bit of film in high school, but they're going to watch a lot of film in comparison when they're in college.
Oh, for sure. And I think that something that really stuck with me is when I first became a head coach, and even when I was an assistant, I would go scouting, in the summertime and all that, and you'd be sitting next to somebody and they'd go, well, I won all my games. I'm like, well, how many did y'all win? Well, it doesn't matter. I won the ones I scouted. And I'm like, okay, like that's not really what you're looking for. I mean, you're trying to make sure, like he said, that we're all one voice and that the players can go to anybody if they have an issue, anybody if they have a question. And you feel like you have a hand in every win, every lot. We do if we lose too. Like it's kind of an all for one deal. And I also think that they have to study the game at a completely different level when they don't have a scout every fifth game. And like the rest of them, well, I mean, I've seen coaches that literally you can go watch a practice, and if it's not their scout, they're not even involved in the practice. And I don't know, I just don't. I think that my job is to make sure that he's ready when he wants to be a head coach. And part of that is studying the game and making sure that, again, it's like the players. When your number's called, you got to be ready. And I think I have a lot of people that are ready to move on if that's what they choose to do one day.
Cameron, thanks so much for joining us tonight. All the best as we move into next year. It's kind of sad that it's 7 months away, but it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
All right,
Thanks for
that's
having
Cameron
me.
Miles with us out here on the Coaches Show. This season, the men's and women's basketball teams, when they scored 88 points or more, Roadrunner fans won. by UT Health San Antonio. We thank USAA for honoring our stars and throughout the year on our shows. And they serve the stars that serve in our military is the official military appreciation sponsor of UTSA. And we'll have that again next year on our USAA Stars of the Week segment. All right, Karen, you've got 7 months till the season begins, but you got 7 months worth of work to do, don't you? A lot of recruiting and schedule building and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I tell you, I didn't mention that Cam is also heading up our scheduling, and we're both about to pull our hair out right now. We can't seem to find anybody to play, so.
When you're good, they don't want to play you, don't you? You gotta, they kind of scare people off.
We obviously, I mean, you know, our own selves at UTSA have to upgrade our schedule, and then, you know, I think our league does also. Just to be blunt about it, I mean, we've got to schedule up, and you know, whatever happens, but we definitely have to play a more challenging schedule. And
I know the men are going to a 20-game conference schedule next year.
Yeah, I don't think we are.
You're staying at 18?
We are. I think the men are going 20, and we're staying at 18.
All right.
That's what I heard today.
All right. What are your thoughts on the NCAA tournament that you've seen so far?
Brutal. Brutal defensively. I mean, we were just talking about that. The games have been so low scoring, and I know it's not necessarily probably pleasing to just the average fan that's watching basketball. I mean, it's awesome coaching, awesome playing, very physical basketball right now, and I think that's what playoffs are all about. To be honest with you, I think I said this. I think I told you guys this. I went to a playoff game in the WNBA. It was the knockout round with New York and Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And Vegas had to win at Vegas to stay in it, and I could not believe the physicality. I've never seen a women's game like that, and it took me back. And I think that's something that is pretty evident right now. But it's good basketball to me. It's to the eye maybe not as pleasing as some people want it to be.
Gino Ariema had some issues with the 2-pod system for regionals. I agree with him. This needs to be spread out more. Do you?
Yeah, I think we all agree. I think there's got to be a significant change to that. I think too many people didn't get a chance to see their teams play. You know, I mean, you can't tell me that some of the teams that played in Spokane don't have terrific fan bases that just couldn't make that trip. I mean, the flights are expensive. I mean, we went out there. We know how it's a tough trip, and we've got to make some changes.
Paige Beckers had a big night against OU the other night. And,
yeah, she scored plenty of points.
Yeah, she did. She got 40 by herself.
She did.
I don't know that Texas and TCU are going to get to 40 tonight, but
no.
What are your thoughts on? And you said they have another player.
I hate that Juju's hurt because UConn was playing USC tonight, and that would have been probably extremely entertaining. I'm going to pick UConn, but I mean, USC's shown some pretty good toughness without her.
Do you have a favorite in the teams that are left?
I don't. UTSA is my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't care. I could care less.
Yeah, so whoever wins it, right? Will you go to the Final Four? I think it's in Tampa this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not going. The young coaches are going. It's kind of a situation where if I have to go and I feel compelled to go, I will. But otherwise, it's baseball games at home and a little bit of a chance to catch my breath.
You've got a few weeks I know you're catching your breath right now, but you're in the midst of recruiting and schedule building, and then players will get here this summer, get them in class, getting ready for the grind of a season. So take us through those next steps for you, what you got to get done in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they got 2 weeks off, so they're off this week, and then we actually get back to lifting and skill work. We do just skill work in the spring. And they work out till the first week of May, and then they get a little bit of time off for finals and a couple of weeks off, and then bring them back in June and reset, start it all over again.
The best players enjoy the journey that we talked about, and that journey begins with getting it done in the gym. If you shoot 300 or 400 shots a day, you feel confident that when you get to the season that you're going to have the success that you've done in your practice.
Yeah, and our players really enjoy it. Again, our coaches are terrific. Our players love the skill work that they get with our coaches because they're good, and they feel like they get better and they get direction on what they need to do by themselves. I may look at it a little bit different. I may maybe give them a week longer in June, just in hopes that we can play longer. I'm kind of thinking that through, but you can't get around the work. I mean, that you have to put the work in from a strength and conditioning perspective, and you have to put the skill work in. So we'll get back at it, and I'm excited to see what the new group can do.
Well, thanks for everything and the 10 shows we've had out there this year and throughout the year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and we'll look forward to November. As I said to Cam, it'll be
I appreciate your coverage. I appreciate everybody that's come to all the radio shows, and it's been a joy to be around the fans in particular. I mean, I think we've really, my family and I know our coaches have really gotten attached to the fans and the fan base that we have, and we just hope to continue to grow it.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's Karen Aston with us out here at Chicken and Pickle. Save time after the game by ordering Taco Cabana online on the MyTC loyalty app. Sign up for great rewards and exclusive offers only at Taco Cabana. the UTSA Basketball Radio Show, our final one of the season. If you want tickets to UTSA games, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance members get 2 free tickets to Roadrunners football, basketball, and baseball games when you redeem online. Visit goutsa.com/TFB tickets to learn more and request tickets. It's time to visit with Austin Claunch. He's on the phone with us as he's out and about getting ready for the Final Four and next season. Austin, welcome to the show. How are things with you this evening as you recap this last season for the Roadrunners?
You know, Andy, I am out and about and certainly getting ready for the Final Four. Now, my biggest game is coming up in about 26 days. I'm getting married. So
there you go.
I
That's
got
awesome.
a lot going on with everything right now. So, man, it's obviously been, man, these last, what's it been, 10 months have just really, more than that. I mean, it's flown by. It's incredible how fast it's gone. You know, we certainly feel like we took steps in the right direction in terms of more wins, you know, than we've had in the last couple of years in both overall and non-conference. But to be honest with you, Andy, we also feel like, you know, just quite frankly, there were some instances where we left a little meat, you know, on the bone, if you will, in regards to some games where, you know, we had some leads at home, and a lot of this was a big learning experience for us. And so we're really excited again about the direction we're heading. Thought we did some really good things in you know, placing a foundation for what we want to do and how we want to play. But now these next couple of months are really important. You know, I didn't necessarily have this time last year. You know what I mean? We were still playing, and, you know, when I was at Alabama, and so these last couple of weeks and the next, you know, month or so moving forward are going to be really important to pushing this thing forward for how we want to do it.
Yeah, you were building, I think, a culture this year, your brand, the way you want to play, all of those things, and you kind of had to do it on the fly. And I know that the scheduling was difficult last year when you got in so late, so a lot of those things will be a much smoother transition for you this year.
Yeah, you know, I think the other thing, too, is going through the league one time is really, really important. You know, reminded me a lot of my time at Nichols. Very, very similar situation. I mean, we were picked, I think, 12th my first year at Nichols and finished, I think, tied for 9th, which, you know, we did the same thing this year. We were picked tied for 11th. We finished tied for 9th. And we were, I mean, we're literally 1 or 2 shots away from being 9-9, you know, and it's, you know, part of that's frustrating and part of that's really encouraging, too, because I feel like we're close to turning a corner. And I was really proud of the effort these guys gave this year in terms of just overcoming a lot of adversity, a lot of injuries, a lot of different circumstances that these guys continue to fight and battle. Even as we went through, what was it, a 6-game losing streak, and just continue to fight and be right there. And then I thought, you know, again, at the end of the year, those last 3 or 4 games, I was really proud of how the group finished up. I know we didn't necessarily go to Fort Worth and do exactly what we wanted to do. But again, after going through the league one time, I think that's really important to understanding, you know, what you're going to need to do moving forward to be more successful.
You had 14 games this year by 2 possessions or fewer. The American Conference had, I think, more than their fair share of these close games. Shows you how competitive that league is, and we're going to see more of that next year with 20-game conference schedule.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, and that's something, you know, again, I'm excited about because, you know, that adds more home games to, you know, automatic home games for us, you know, in the combo where we feel like we played really well. And even, you know, I was happy with how we went on the road and played there late in the year. So, expect 21 or 2 possessions. Like all of them, you know, we're up in the balance of the under 4 media. So, really good league, good players, good coaches. And now I've got to do a better job here in this offseason, continue to piece this thing together.
Primo and Damari were with you the entire season as your seniors. What do you think their pro potential may be?
Well, I mean, both of them. I mean, obviously, Primo and Damari put up good numbers, shot it well. I think Primo certainly shot his highest percent from 3, you know, that he's had in his college career, and that goes to his, you know, goes to show you just the work ethic and everything he's put in. Obviously, we know what Damari's capable of doing from deep. I think also he did a good job defensive rebounding if you go look at the numbers this year. So both those guys are going to get great opportunities. I mean, they're going to be out here in the spring working out and trying to I'm sure their agents will have, you know, sort of a plan, and I'm obviously just here to do whatever I can as the former head coach. As these guys move on, it's like I tell all of them, they're not always going to play for me. So hopefully, you know, they're prepared to go and go be successful.
All right, I want to ask you this real quick because you've done it both ways this year. I heard a national talk host being critical, I think it was of Texas Tech, for not calling timeout and setting up a play. How do you determine as a coach when you're just going to go in the last seconds and when you're going to call timeout and set up a play?
You know, Andy, and I'm a bit facetious when I say that, but, you know, if it works, it was right. If it doesn't, it wasn't.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's really hard to say, and I really have throughout my career been the beneficiary of both. Tough for me to say it. It really is a gut feeling in the moment, you know, and there's nothing worse than when your player pulls up to shoot one and you call timeout and he makes it right.
Yeah.
It's, you know, would he have made it, or, you know, and it's, you know, again, it's a feel thing, and like you said, I've done it both ways, and it's worked both ways, and it hasn't worked both ways. So, you know, again, I think what's more important is keeping your teams out of those situations, right? How do you get a 6 or 7 point lead with a minute left, right? How do we do a better job throughout the course of the game, just becoming a better team? And in late game situations, obviously, you know, again, going through this league, you know, it has really just sort of reaffirmed, you know, what I thought about the league coming in. But it really is. I mean, every single game is up to balance. But you've got to understand late game situations. You got to understand your team, and you got to be able to, you know, hey, they're going to go make the play, and then if not, we got to be able to execute out of timeout.
Who do you like in the Final Four?
Oh man, you know, I'll tell you what, it's tough to not like any of them, right? I mean, I think there's all 4 1 seeds are there. Listen, it's going to be really, really good games. That's what I'm excited about. Really good teams, really good coaches. I think that first game, obviously, you've got 2 familiar teams in the SEC, you know, so that'll be an interesting battle. And then, you know, that second game is going to be a nice fight. So, you know, obviously 2 really good defensive teams with Duke's got great size and Houston's as tough as they come. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Austin, thanks so much for the entire year. Can't wait till November when it starts back up again. And we'll see you soon. Enjoy your wedding and your Final Four this weekend.
I appreciate it, Andy. Birds up, Eddie.
All right, that's Austin Claunch with us. He's out getting ready for his wedding and recruiting and Final Four and all of that. We're going to visit with Joey Brooks in the next segment as he handles a lot of things for UTSA with recruiting and all that kind of stuff, and we'll get with him next as we continue from Chicken and Pickle, the Coaches Show on the UTSA Sports Network. Roadrunner free throws counted for more than a point for every free throw UTSA men's and women's basketball team scored at home. Haven for Hope Shelter for the Homeless gave a donation to from North Park Subaru. It's North Park Subaru's charity stripe benefiting Haven for Hope. Joey Brooks is one of UTSA's assistants. He's also the general manager. He joins us on the recruiting trail right now. Good evening, Joey. How are things going with you?
Andy, I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Very well. Take us through the role of general manager. What is it that you do there in addition to your assistant coach duties?
Yeah, so in addition to traditional scouting, player development, obviously, like you mentioned, I'm on the road recruiting now, which everybody knows are kind of traditional assistant duties. As college basketball changes, I think, and Coach Claunch thinks it's important that we, stay nimble and transform as the landscape transforms. And this general manager position, man, it's really focused on just the day-to-day preparation of not just the current roster, but building, what next year's roster would end up being. The transfer portal, it opens and closes on a certain date, but if you really know anything, you kind of know it's always open.
Right.
So you're always kind of taking calls and having people reach out and filtering information. And then I would say one of the chief responsibilities in the general manager role is like getting out there and making sure our donors and our fans and people close to UTSA know how important it is that we're raising money, generating revenue that goes towards our players, that goes towards our program, and that's also a 365 job. So all of those things kind of mixed in one, man, but I love it, and it's something that I think every day I'm learning a little bit more.
You played at Notre Dame years ago. The recruiting process has definitely changed because of NIL. I know that's the biggest, a big challenge and probably the biggest change, isn't it?
Yeah, so, the NIL component, certainly, obviously I'm a Notre Dame grad, and Notre Dame is close to my heart. And one of the best things about my experience was, I never had a bad teammate. I had guys that I loved and cared about and guys that cared about me, guys I've been in their wedding. And I think those aspects of college athletics still exist. And I think you gotta have to, there are things you gotta do to build them and reinforce them in today's age with, the transfer portal and, guys not necessarily looking at places as 4-year destinations. But I think that there's a middle ground that we gotta find in college basketball. And I think, the pendulum always swings far one way, and then it ends up finding a happy equilibrium. And I think we're moving towards finding that equilibrium.
You have to recruit all kinds of players, and roster turnover is certainly inevitable. Is the challenge to find players that are ready to go day one? Because those now 11 non-conference games, you're trying to get all that team in sync so they can be ready for the conference season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a hybrid approach. When I think about Coach Claunch, he is a forward thinker. He wants to build a roster that is balanced. We think high school talent. We've taken 2 high school players that are going to be really good players, guys, that are going to help us win games and ultimately help us win championships. We've recruited the JUCO level extremely hard this past cycle. We would like to take, obviously, we're going to be, really aggressive always in the transfer market as well. But I think a balance of high school talent that you can grow and develop and grows with your program. JUCO basketball is as good as it's ever been. So if you're not recruiting good JUCO players, I think you're making a mistake. And then, obviously, taking transfers are always going to be a big part of how you stay old. And if you look around college basketball, old teams win. That's just kind of the way the game is going. So.
All right. Joey, I know we're kind of up against the clock tonight, but thank you for being with us, and all the best on the recruiting trail. Can't wait for November to roll around so that we have another year on the trail with UTSA basketball.
Thank you so much, Andy. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
All right, that's Joey Brooks. He's the GM and assistant coach for UTSA men's basketball. We'll wrap up the show with some baseball talk, and Pat Hallmark will join us next. It's the UTSA Coaches Shows on the UTSA Sports Network. Radio show, and we got a chance to visit with Austin and with Joey on the UTSA men's staff, and with Karen and Cam Miles a little earlier on the women's staff. We're going to wrap things up with some good news with the baseball team, and Pat Hallmark joins us. 6 in a row, off to a really good start, and second place in the American Conference. Congrats on that. What's been the secret to your success so far?
It's been a team effort. We're getting good starting pitching from some older guys that are reliable, and our lineup's deep, so we can score some runs even at the bottom of the lineup, which is nice.
Have you thought about getting any torpedo at bats?
I have. They seem to be working for the big leaguers, so we have. I think you'll see it eventually in college here.
Yeah, it's moving that weight down. It's I look at like golf clubs. We don't play with the same golf clubs we did 50 years ago.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, take us through this season and what's been working for you. You're getting a good pitching and good and timely hitting, and I know that that usually leads to wins.
Yeah, we are. Again, it starts with the starting pitching. Zach Royce, Braylon Owens, and Connor Miles. We've had the exact same rotation every weekend, every day of the weekend so far this year, which is rare. We haven't had to make any switches there. So just that reliability with those guys. And then we're fairly deep. Like I mentioned, I think it was Saturday, all of our runs were scored with the 7, 8, 9 hitters, which is kind of nice. You don't have to get it done at the top of the lineup.
When that bottom of the lineup's turning the batting order over, that really puts pressure on the other team's pitching staff.
It does, yeah. And just talking to the other team's coaches, they've mentioned it, just that we can score runs in them in various ways. We can steal a base, we can hit a home run, we can draw a walk. So we just need to keep improving and keep it going.
What's your philosophy with starting pitching? How deep in a game do you want them to go before you turn it over to the bullpen?
We'd like to get 5 innings out of them. Yeah, in this day and age with hitting what it is, hitting is better than maybe it was 30 years ago. And with the video and the scouting, everybody's prepared for your starting pitcher. We're prepared for the other team's starting pitching. You know how hard they're going to throw. You know what their off-speed pitches look like. So it's tough to go 8 and 9 innings. But if we get 5 innings out of Braylon and Zach and Connor, we feel like they've done a heck of a job.
Yeah, in years past, it was complete games. I heard a stat the other day where, it was a pitcher in 1980 that had like he retired in 1980, and he had 130 complete games in a 20-year career. That's kind of out of the window in the big leagues, and I'm sure it's trickling down to the other leagues as well.
Yeah, you just don't see it anymore. Part of it is arm injuries are up now. People are throwing harder. They're training to throw harder. So there's a little bit of risk there. But mostly with our guys, it's just in the college game, everybody is so prepared for your starting pitcher.
Is there ever room for a Greg Maddux who doesn't throw it hard but gets people out?
Yeah, there is. Christian Okerholm got the win for us Saturday, and he's topping out at about 87 miles an hour. Everything's moving, nothing's straight. You can't throw slow and straight.
Yeah, that'll get hit.
But yeah, Christian is one of those guys. So there is room for that.
All right, you have TCU for a one-off tomorrow, and then on the road at UAB. Take us through this week.
Well, TCU's good.
Yeah.
They're going to have some arms, mid-90s. They got a couple guys that can even run it up into the high 90s. So it'll be a good challenge for us, just like some of the other Power 5 games are. So we're looking forward to that, and then we got to turn the page pretty quick and get on a plane and go over to Birmingham. And UAB all kind of known for their pitching. So we'll see what the bats can do the next few days.
The wins against Texas and Texas A&M, how does that boost confidence for conference games?
Well, it does. It certainly boosts confidence. But our guys don't lack confidence. They're pretty good. We got a good team. They know they're good. Part of my challenge is maybe keeping them humble a little bit. But that's a good problem to have. So, but those were fun games. The Texas game, we was super proud of them because we had to come back in that game, and we beat a former teammate, which was kind of nice.
That's pretty cool.
To hang the L there where we hung it. So proud of those guys and looking forward to more.
All right, Pat, thanks so much for having us been out here tonight, and we'll look forward to more success from the baseball team.
Thank you, guys.
All right. That's Pat Hallmark with us to wrap things up, and that'll wrap things up for our coaches' shows for the 24-25 academic and athletic season. August 27th, we resume with the Jeff Traylor Show, and we'll have all the details for that as we get closer to then. And football season starts in about 22 weeks when UTSA is at Texas A&M. And whenever they announce the time, we'll be on the air 2 hours before that. Thanks to Karen and to Austin and to their staffs, to Lisa Campos and the entire UTSA crew, and all the people that come out here each week for the show. We'll see you in August as we return for the Coaches Show. Shane Carter produced tonight's show, and I look forward to thank him for that. And we'll see you soon on the UTSA Sports Network.